thank you all for being here. And I think we'll get started. So Christy is going to start us off. For those of you that haven't met Christy before, Christy is our community manager, and she's the one that answers your emails and your messages. It's a real live person. So Christy's going to set us up so that you all know how to use the different functions that we have here through this call today. So Christy, take it from here.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today from all over the world. So before we begin with the renowned Eliot and Lauren Eckstrom, I just want to go over a few things before we begin. So we will be opening it up to questions or stories at the end. Like, we would love to see your faces if possible. And if you want to, comment or share a story or ask a question, feel free to raise your little icon hand, and I'll click on you and you could turn your camera on to ask the question. Or if you feel more comfortable, you could use the little chat questionnaire, the little Q&A box, and you could type in your question or comments in there, and I can read it out loud. The second thing is, if English is not your first language, there is an open or closed caption feature. So feel free to use that, feature if English is not your first language. And your cameras and your microphones are turned off during this call. But like I said, if you have any comments or questions or anything, feel free to raise your little icon hand, and I could click on you and we could turn your camera on. But yeah, this should be a very exciting call. There's a lot of exciting things coming your way with Interdimension TV. And what a better way for Travis and Lauren to tell you about it. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to Lauren and Travis. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Christy. And again, thank you everybody for being here. So really exciting time. First of all, we just like to come on and connect with you all personally a couple times a year when we can. So this is a great opportunity for us to have this time with you, especially us together. And as maybe many of you have heard, there is a brand new rotation of the program PY 108 that Travis created that is starting on September 14th. So we really wanted to take this opportunity today to talk to you a little bit more about, why are we doing this rotation again? And what is this program all about? And what's the purpose behind it? And what are some of the reasons that we've chosen to do this at this time? And then to give you the opportunity to ask some questions that you might have that might be related to the PY 108 challenge, or maybe not, maybe there are other things that you have questions about or would like to share, and we'll be sure to do that at the end. And then Travis has some really exciting news to spill as well. So that'll all be part of this call today. So we'll jump right in. And so why are we doing this new rotation of PY 108?
Well, I think that sometimes you create something that becomes timeless and it becomes a classic, so to speak. And that compounded with this reflection upon, think about back to January 1st of this year, right? Like, here we are, it's the end of August, it's 2023. And it's kind of scary, like how fast the year has gone by. And a lot of us around January 1st, we naturally have intentions that we set for the new year. We have goals, we have things that we want to accomplish. And we know from the data that most people, about 3 weeks into the new year, they fall to the wayside of what those goals and those intentions are. So it's not many people that are actually able to see into fruition those intentions. And so we, as a group here at Interdimension TV, we're talking about, well, what can we offer our members at this time of the year? Because we still have time, even though it's towards the end of the year, we still have a few more months left. And so these 108-day programs are an opportunity, and in this context, a great opportunity to finish the year feeling amazing, so that if you did lose your practice, if you did not get to where you wanted to get to at the beginning of the year, you still have time. And this becomes an opportunity to say, okay, hey, I'm going to move through 108 days of yoga, and I'm going to make the best out of 2023. and I want to finish this year feeling amazing. I want to finish it feeling physically strong, mentally calm, emotionally balanced and centered and spiritually alive. And if you want those things, you have to practice those things. You have to take time out of your day. And if you're not taking time out of your day, you start to slip into default programs, and those are usually the places where we don't feel as alive, and we don't feel as healthy, and we don't feel as balanced. So these programs, these 108-day programs, are a structure and a roadmap to say, okay, we're going to start a rotation September 14th, and we're going to move through 108 days of yoga through the PY108 program. And then on December 30th, we're going to finish the program. So that's really the reason why we wanted to bring it back. And we chose PY108 because, one, it's 108 days. And then two, it's also accessible to a wider demographic of people. So when I created PY108, it was really for an intermediate level student. There's Level Up 108, which is more advanced. PY108 is kind of your classic all levels power yoga program.
Well, and that's a question that I think we see all the time. And I know I see this in the Facebook group all the time of like, what's the difference between PY 108 and Level Up 108? And so really that understanding that Level Up 108 is supposed to be more advanced. It is more challenging in terms of pace and the quality of the sequencing. And PY 108 has that greater range of accessibility. And I think it's really important for people to not underestimate the power of that. You know, I think people can sometimes think, I need to do the thing that's harder. I need to do the thing that's more challenging. And really, there's opportunity within PY 108 to be adequately challenged. If you're someone who's done Level Up 108 maybe several times, that there's something really important about coming back to PY 108 and coming back to an intermediate practice that I think shows you how far you've evolved, and not so much even on the physical plane, but on the inner dimensions. And so I think maybe that helps to touch into, you know, you created Level Up 108, but then you created PY 108. So why did you then go and create PY 108? Because that might be confusing to people.
Yeah, I mean, I created PY 108 after Level Up 108 because Level Up 108, again, like we were just saying, was more for advanced people. And what we didn't have is we didn't have something on the Interdimension TV platform that was for that intermediate level. Level Up 108, the theme of that was, it was about leveling up. So it was really about taking it to that next level, taking it to that next level of challenge. Whereas the intention behind PY 108 is really a timeless theme. It's about the theme of transforming your weaknesses into strengths, transforming division into unity, transforming your fears into courage. And it's really the theme of empowerment. It's the theme of empowering the individual so that as you go through the 108 days, you start to realize, or maybe just simply remember, that you have this power inside of you. Because a lot of times we forget the power that exists inside of us. And right now, you may have noticed there's a lot of transformation, there's a lot of challenges, there's a lot of chaos going on in the world. And if you turn on the news, you see the worst of humanity. And if you're consuming a lot of news, we want to stay informed. But if you're consuming so much of that, it becomes a major downer, just to put it simply. And what it can do is it can start to make you feel hopeless, and it can start to pull you into a place of despair. And it reminds me of this powerful saying that the Persian poet Rumi said, which was, when I was unwise, I tried to change the world. But when I became wise, I focused on transforming myself. And this speaks to really the perspective that the yogis had, which is, if you want to affect the external, you have to transform the internal. If you want to affect the collective, you have to first start by transforming the individual, because the individual has energy within them. And then that energy manifests into the outer world, into the world of form. We start with a thought, but then what happens with that thought? It turns into our words, it turns into our speech, it turns into our actions. It manifests from this internal deep place into the outer place. So if the internal is in a state of turmoil and chaos and negativity and toxicity, then naturally that manifests through the words and the speech that we use and the way that we function on social media, always attacking other people. And now we're just contributing to the problem instead of being a solution to the problem. So PY108 was a program that really was recognizing, hey, we have all these challenges going on in the world. I want to create something to remind people that they have the key. They have the key. Maybe they forgot the key, or they forgot where the key is, but they have the key, and this program will help you rediscover the key to unlock that power inside of you. And that's why we call it power yoga, because it's meant to empower you.
So that all sounds really great and inspiring. I don't know if anyone else is absolutely ready after that to get on the mat for 108 days, but how does the structure of the program unlock that? You know, because those things sound really good in theory, but how does that, you know, I think when someone hears, oh, I'm going to do yoga for 108 days in a row, it doesn't necessarily correlate to all of these beautiful things that you just said as being the fruits of that practice. So how does it work, and why did you structure it that way?
A lot of people make the mistake where they dabble here and they dabble there. Maybe they go on YouTube and I got to find a class, and they find a class here and they do that class, and 3 days go by and then they do another class over here, and that's how they go, and that's better than nothing, right?
Right.
But there's a certain depth that can be missing when you're not consistent, and also when you're not in a program that is cohesive. It's like having a roadmap that says, okay, you're here, and if you follow this map step by step, at the end of that map, you will be here. So when you go from just kind of dabbling here and dabbling there in an unstructured way, and you start to get consistent, and you're in a system and a framework and something that's curated and cohesive, you know, when we create these programs, there's so much thought and intention that goes into creating it. Like, we don't just say, just throw these classes together and whatever. Like, everything, the sequences, the quotes, the themes, what's day 1, day 2, day 3, like all of that is really like thought out. And then it's tested. Like, we test it out on ourselves, and then we test it with our students live in person. And after all this rigorous scientific experimentation and seeing what works and getting rid of what doesn't work, then this program is crafted. So when you follow something day by day that's thought out and has that intentionality, there's a depth that starts to grow, and so your practice really begins to deepen. And with PY108, you're moving through 108 days, because 108 is a very auspicious number in the world of yoga and other of the wisdom traditions. And so we break it down into 3 sections of 36 days. And those are major milestones. So it can seem intimidating. Oh my God, how am I going to do 108 days? I can't even think about doing 8 days in a row, let alone 108 days. But if you can just think about, all you got to do is show up each day and think about first, it's like running an ultra endurance event. I've done this where I ran a 50K trail run, and I remember when I was doing the race, if in my mind while I was running the race, I started thinking too much about getting to the finish line, it would wreck me. It would destroy me, because I was so far away that I would have just felt defeated. But if I just focused on one step at a time, one moment at a time, or in this case, one day at a time, before you know it, those little steps done with consistency start to add up. And then you make it to that first major milestone of day 36. And then you started to build momentum where you're like, wow, I did it. I did 36 days of yoga in a row. This is amazing. I could do another 36. And then you get to that next milestone of day 72. And then eventually you get to that final milestone of day 108. And by the way, it's inevitable. You might miss a day here or a day there, and that's okay. Your 108 days may turn into 180 days. That's okay. So we don't have to have this perfectionistic, unrealistic expectation of doing it I mean, as close as you can is great, but there's also room to like adapt to the natural, unexpected, unforeseen circumstances that arise in life.
Yeah, my mom is going to be 68 this year, next month, and she says it's not yoga 45 for 45 for her. It was yoga 45 and 145, but she did the whole program,
Exactly.
and she did all 45 days, and it took her the time that it took her. But, at 68, she's active and amazing, and, does yoga every day and cycles and all these things, but she did it at a pace that worked for her. And that's accomplishing the program. So I think in the past, we've seen many people get really rigorous about how they're going through these things. And that kind of stringent rule keeping falls into its own form of grasping and perfectionism that can have its downsides, which is why I think it's really important, as we get into talking a little bit about this PY 108 challenge, we've structured it in a way that you can do 103 out of 108 classes and still be part of the challenge. And that's really important to understand. And you can substitute. So one of the rules of the challenge is also that every Wednesday on Inner Dimension, you get a new class that comes out. And if you decide on that day that you're going to substitute the new class for the Power Yoga 108 class, you can do that. You're not limited to just doing this one thing day in and day out for 108 days. But I think too, there are people who sometimes think it should be power yoga for 108 days, 108 days in a row of power yoga. And these programs that you create, that we co-create, are not structured that way. And they're not structured that way for a reason, which I think is really important to talk about.
Yeah, it's at the end of the day, it's all about balance. And when we look at this from a philosophical perspective, we're really looking at the balance of yin and yang. And if we go too much in the world of yang, and you see this happening in the world of fitness, where people get dominated by their vanity and their ego. And so it's just go, go, go all the time, really intense exercise. And then what happens is they get burned out, or maybe they get injured. And so what the body is doing, because it's so wise and we have this innate intelligence, is it's saying, okay, if you're not consciously going to bring us into balance, we're going to force you to come into balance. And so the injury manifests, or the burnout manifests, or the illness or the disease manifests. And it's the body's way of trying to bring down the yang and start to increase the yin. So with the recognition that it's all about the balance, we move through these yoga classes, and we have some power yoga, and then we have an active recovery day, which could be gentle yoga or yin yoga, or something like the mountain pose series, which is 30 minutes of just gentle, almost Tai Chi style stretches. And it's holistic too, because not only do we have the various genres of yoga, power, yin, and gentle, but we also have pranayama, or breath work, which has become very popular in the last few years. We have meditation incorporated into the program. And then we even have a core series. And I love the core series because, yes, we all want flat tummies, or at least I do. we want tone, we want definition there in the midsection, but in a deeper way, this area of the body is the essence of the whole entire body. And it's also connected to this third energy center known as Manipura, which is an energy center that's related to our self-confidence, our willpower, and even our self-esteem. So when this area of the body is weak, or maybe it's atrophied, or we haven't strengthened it, I know for myself, I've really watched this. I can also feel the self-esteem and the willpower also starting to diminish as well. Whereas when this energy is strong, and again, it comes back to balance. We want all those 7 energy centers to be spinning. A chakra is a wheel. We want each wheel to be spinning in a balanced, even steady way. Not too fast, that'd be too much yang, but also not too slow, which would be too much yin. So the goal of this program is that it brings you back to balance, and anything that is balanced is strong, it's whole, it's healthy. Anything that is imbalanced is weak and unhealthy.
Thank you. And I just want to advocate for those of you who are going into the PY 108 challenge, do the gentle yoga, do the yin yoga. You know, they're there for a reason. I think it can be really tempting to substitute the gentle yoga class for another power yoga class. And we hear this on retreat all of the time, all over the world. People will come on retreat and they'll kind of shyly say, well, I've done the programs, but I always skip the restorative yoga day, or I skip the gentle yoga day. And I understand why. I think we understand why. And Travis just spoke to sometimes why that is. But really, our hope is that you get to practice until you're 108. And if you're being so hard on the body and so hard on yourself, you know, like, let's talk about that for a moment. So hard on yourself, thinking that every time you get on your mat, it's got to be a sweat fest or a calorie burn fest. You know, we got to be compassionate inwardly and remember that what we're looking for is sustainability and longevity. And we don't get that if we're not approaching ourselves, our lives, and our practice in an even balanced way.
Yeah, just to add to that, like even within the power yoga, the beautiful thing about yoga is that it's not a competition. It's not about comparing yourself to what the students are doing on the screen. It's about you honoring what you're feeling and listening to that language of sensation. And when you need to back off, back off. At the same time, when you need to go further, go further. There's that great story of the Zen master Ajahn Chah, and his students come up to him and they say, you know, why are you telling this student to go do this thing, but then you tell this student to do this other thing? You're giving these conflicting teachings. What's up with that? And he says, well, it's like a student is on a trail and one's about to go off into the ditch on the left. So I say, go right, go right. The other one over here is about to fall off a cliff. And I say, go left, go left. And the teaching is that some people are going too far right and they need to come left. And some are going too far left and they need to come right. And it's all about the middle path. And so that's what we're striving to achieve when we do PY 108 or really any form of yoga. It comes back to that path of balance. And when we find that balance, when we come back to center, now we're in a place where we can allow our thoughts and allow our speech and allow our actions to arise from that place, as opposed to a place that's unsteady or imbalanced.
Yeah, and I would really advocate for people to look at the difference that it makes. And this is an experiment that Travis and I run in our own lives. When we do yin or restorative yoga at night before bed, it makes a difference. And we've advocated this for years. And Kate, thank you so much for sharing that it opened you up to a new world and that they've become critical parts of your life and your practice. That's so good to hear. But I know we've run these experiments in our own home. And when we do yin and we do restorative, our heart rates are lower. We sleep better. You know, these are things that are part of a holistic, balanced life. So hopefully, you know, you'll go through the program and give yourself the opportunity to try the different areas of practice that maybe you've withheld from yourself or you've avoided. Because for some people, the power yoga is the easy thing. You know, I know that that's how I came to restorative and yin. It was like I was doing power yoga all the time. And it was the yin that challenged me. It was being in a pose for 10 minutes that was the thing that brought me face to face with myself and was actually the harder practice. So like Travis was saying, you know, take a look at where is the fierce compassion here for you. But part of this rotation that is really exciting is that we're going to be with you along the way. And there are going to be some opportunities for all of us to get together again. And there are going to be some live components to this.
Yes, we have some live components. Before we jump into that, can I share the email that?
No.
No.
Of course.
So, interestingly enough, Christy, our community manager that you met at the top of the call, received an email yesterday from somebody who is in prison. And if you guys know us, you know that we've done quite a bit of work in the prison systems. But this came from a completely separate source, and somebody that doesn't even know that we've done this other work in prison. And they wrote an email sharing their experience moving through the 108 days. And it's one thing to hear it from us and to hear it, how we feel about it, but I think there's a lot of power when you hear it coming from somebody else, especially in this context, somebody who's been incarcerated. So she talks about, getting the program, finding the right style of yoga for her. She goes through this whole process, and then she writes, she's finally made it to the end. Okay. So she's on day 108. This is going to be hopefully you in December 30th.
So just for context, she's done the 108-day program, and this is her getting to the end of the 108. And now she's written this message. Okay.
Yeah. So she says, when I hit play for 108 sun salutations, I was almost immediately overwhelmed with emotion. It was as though Travis was talking directly to me. You did it. Around 105, I began to cry. Not tears of sadness or distress, but those of gratitude, grace, and peace. The transformation I had longed for years before was coming to fruition. I began to see my journey through the 108 days, which took a little longer for me for a few reasons. Number one, I am in prison. We don't always get the time that we need. Things happen, and I am still a physical slave to the Department of Corrections, earning my stay here by working for them. As I began to see my journey through the program flash before my eyes, I saw the day I found the program. Watching them for the first time, not being able to make it through cross-train or being able to get into that pose with one arm behind my back and the other through my legs with my hands clasped together. I saw the snow melt in the garden that I had planted. I am the garden coordinator. Then I saw my broken ribs when I fell in the garden, slamming into a raised bed. I broke 2 ribs and had to take 2 weeks off from yoga. It was hard to stay away, but I couldn't breathe or sleep, let alone fold and twist. Then the day I returned and how difficult it was. But regardless, the mat was there inviting me to come to it, to come to myself. I saw myself as I received a message on my prison tablet from my 27-year-old daughter, who had not spoken to me in 5 years. She wanted to tell me about what it was like growing up with a mother who abandoned her emotionally and physically several times as I came into the system. If it wasn't for yoga and meditation, I don't know how I would have taken that, or if I would have had the wisdom to know how to respond. The mat saw me through that, and the practice helped me with what to say to my child. A healthy dose of detachment walked alongside me. Then I saw myself as that same daughter came here to surprise me with a visit just 3 months later. I was on the mat an hour before her visit and the first thing the next morning. Finally, we reached 107, and Travis paused to have his crew come out with us to perform that last salutation. I broke down crying like a baby with so much joy. Joy I hadn't felt in so long, if ever. Not only had I lost 17 pounds and added a lot of muscle, suppleness, and strength, I had gained an aspect of myself I only dreamed before. So I love that testimonial because it speaks to a lot of things. It speaks to the power of persistence. Things came up. She broke her ribs. She still showed up as soon as she could. 2 weeks later, she picked up where she left off. She persevered. It spoke to how she handled the intensity of receiving the letter from her daughter. And she attributes her yoga practice to her responding, as we were saying earlier, thoughts, words, actions from that place of balance and wholeness. That has a different set of karma than when we act from a place of stress and imbalance and disconnect. And then also she speaks to the joy that she had rediscovered. And I think very often we can think that we have to go get these things outside of us, but remember the message of this program is to empower you that you already have it inside of you. The joy is not out there. It's not out there. It's in here. It's already inside of you. And when you get on your mat and you show up and you're not just dabbling here and there, but you're really committed to a program, you begin to go deeper and deeper inside of yourself and rediscover these seeds of goodness and benevolence that exist inside of you. And the practice is watering those seeds so that that begins to flourish and grow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to the individual that sent the email. And so, yeah, so now the other inmates have seen her transformation. And so they want in on it. And she said that the room to practice in is so small that only one individual can go in at a time. So one will go in, do their practice, come out, the next one will go in. And so that's how it's spreading. And then she wants to know how she can get certified to teach so she can go share this with other people.
So beautiful. And I'm sure that many of you who are listening right now, whether you're joining live or listening to the recording, have had this experience. You know, I remember for myself when I was in college and I had first started doing yoga, and there was a day where I was walking down the street and yoga had become a critical part of my life. And I looked up and people were smiling at me. And it was the weirdest experience because I was thinking, like, are they looking at me? And then I realized I was radiating something that people were attracted to and wanted, and a lightness and a joy. And that's what happens, right? We don't have to drag people to the practice. They see us cultivating the benefits and living in joy and equanimity and also navigating challenge. And I think that this is one of the things that is really important about what Inner Dimension does, not just myself and Travis, but all of our teachers, where we're honest. Life is hard. Life is challenging. We work with people who are incarcerated, people who are facing all sorts of different challenges. We're facing challenges in our own lives, and we don't deny that. We don't negate that or avoid that. And it gets to come and be part of the practice. So really, I think that that speaks to it. And I hope that it gives people some inspiration for what is at the end of this 108-day journey. And along the way, there are going to be these points that Travis especially is checking in with you and practicing alongside you.
Yeah. So one of the reasons why we do these community conversations is because we realize how important community is. And we want to bring that spirit also into this 108-day challenge, where we don't just leave you on your own for the full 108 days, but we do have these points where we can come together and we can practice together so that we have some things to look forward to. And these are going to be open to anybody and everybody. So even somebody who's not moving through the 108 days, maybe you have a friend or a family member, if they want to join in and do a random day of yoga, again, that's better than nothing. Please invite anybody who would like to come. So the rotation will start on Thursday, September 14th. And on that day, I will be going live on Instagram on the Inner Dimension TV channel to just do a kickoff talk, just to help us set an intention to come together and really to start the journey in a beautiful, clear, powerful way. So I'll go live. It'll just be a talk. And we'll do that on Thursday, September 14th. We'll do it at about 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. We'll send all this out at a future time. So don't worry about if you aren't jotting down the times right.
Yeah,
We're going to be in Montana.
If you signed up for the PY 108 challenge, you'll get notifications about this. So don't worry, you'll get all of it. Yeah, and we'll be in Montana at the time. So it'll be a beautiful setting for that opening talk.
Yes, hopefully we have a good internet connection. So that'll be a live that we do. And then Saturday, October 7th, we're going to do a live class on Instagram, Interdimension TV. And that will be the strength class from PY 108 that will happen at 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's Saturday, October 7th. Then on Thanksgiving, which is Thursday, November 23rd, we will do another Instagram live class, 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. That will be cross-train. And then I think what we're going to do for that class is we're also going to add the bonus core class, because we want you guys to be able to go and have your Thanksgiving meal completely guilt-free. So come and join us that morning, 8 a.m.
You don't need to do core to enjoy Thanksgiving guilt-free, I would just like to say. But I think for that class, Willa and I might be joining you for that class.
I hope so.
So I think that might be a family class. We'll see. Get your family together.
And then finally, on Saturday, December 30th, this will be the last final day of the whole program. This will be the 108 Sun Salutations. We're going to do something very special. We're going to do a live multi-stream. So we're going to stream this class across all the platforms. So YouTube and Interdimension and Facebook. By the way, I do think that we hopefully are going to be able to stream these through Facebook as well. Interdimension, our tech team's working on it. So also, if you happen to be in the Los Angeles area, you could come and do this in person on Saturday, December 30th. In person will also be an option. So that will be the grand finale. And our hope is for this practice is I'll start off with the talk, and then we'll do the 108 Sun Salutations, and we'll have the actual class from the actual videos playing in the background as we move through it. And then I'll finish that out with a closing meditation and Shavasana. So it'll be a really big special event that will be extremely powerful. And just to reiterate, all these classes, besides the live classes, the classes that are available on Interdimension, are all pre-recorded. They're already there, so it's all on demand. So you don't have to show up anywhere at a specific time. You just do the classes whenever you want, whatever time zone you're in, if that makes sense. It's only these special live events that will happen at a specific time. And I imagine that if you do miss these, they will remain up on the Interdimension Instagram page, so you could go back and do the pre-recorded version. Yeah,
and so just to talk a little bit about some of the basics to answer any questions that might be out there. PY 108 lives on Interdimension TV. So in order to do all of PY 108, you have to be a member of Interdimension TV, and that can take you through the whole program. But the way that the challenge works, and here are kind of the guidelines of it, is that you need to do 103 of 108 days of PY 108. If you want to substitute any of the days for one of the new classes that comes out every Wednesday, you're allowed to substitute the class that day for the new class that's coming out on Interdimension TV on that Wednesday. You don't have to join the live classes on Instagram in order to qualify for the PY 108 challenge. That's totally optional. We just really wanted to give us all reasons to come together and get together, because community is a pillar of practice. Community is a pillar of Interdimension TV. And so to help support everybody through these 108 days and through the holidays and into the new year, it felt important to have these optional events where we could get together and practice as a live community. But again, that's totally optional. And then just once, you only have to do it one time, to submit a picture or a video of you doing one of the PY 108 classes. And there's a Google Doc with the link and all of that that's on our Instagram. It's on the PY 108 challenge website. It's on our website. So just one time in those 108 days, you know, tossing a picture or a photo in there into that Google document, and then you qualify for the challenge. And at the end of the challenge, you qualify to win either, and you get to choose if you're in the domestic United States. So in the main United States, you can have a hat. So we have an Interdimension TV hat. We've been wearing these for years, and everywhere we go, people are like, I want one of those. I might be biased, but it's my favorite hat that I own. It fits the best. And then we have an Interdimension TV drawstring bag. So if you live within the continuous states, you can choose those actual physical products, or you can get $200 off of any Interdimension Academy training. So a $200 gift card to go purchase any Interdimension Academy training that fits for where you're at, so that you can deepen your practice. You know, I know that this was true for myself. When I started doing yoga consistently, it wasn't that I wanted to be a yoga teacher. I actually did not want to be a yoga teacher, but this practice had changed my life and I wanted to learn more about it. And that put me on the path to deepening my practice and doing some training. So there are trainings on Interdimension Academy that you can do if you just want to deepen your practice. Like Travis said, the breath work is so popular right now and so essential to your health. And that's a training that anybody can do to improve their health. We just released the Yin and Restorative training, and there's amazing master classes there. So you can have that $200 gift certificate. So from there, we've talked about doing the PY 108 challenge to really set us up for the end of the year, to get us through the end of the year, you know, really ending the year on a strong note. But is there any other reason why we want to set people up for the new year?
Well, this is, by the way, the very first time that there's even been a mention of this, and you guys are the first to know because you're here, and we're grateful that you're a part of our Interdimension TV community, and that is, we have a very, very special new program that's going to be coming out at the very end of the year. So it'll come out Wednesday, December 20th, but that particular program will start officially on January 1st. So the idea is you move through the 108 days, the PY 108, you get your practice into a place of consistency. It reminds me of the quote Jim Rohn says, which is, motivation gets you started, habit is what keeps you going. So in the beginning, we get very motivated, but you have to habituate these non-negotiables in your life. And once the habits get locked in, then you're cruising. So think about establishing the habit through the 108 days of the PY 108. And then we'll give you a day off, December 31st. You can chill, you can celebrate the new year. And then on January 1, we're going to start an epic new program. And all I'm going to say at this particular point in time is that it really was inspired by you guys. You guys have been asking for a program like this. It was actually inspired by a class that was part of another program that people really, really loved and wanted to see be turned into a program. And I'm just going to leave it there.
Ooh, lots of speculation.
I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to leave it right there. And I'm going to say that in December, we will release a picture. We will release a picture. Usually we wait until about 10 days before the thing comes out, which would be December. But starting in September, we'll release a little picture just to get the imagination going. And then in October, we're going to release a little video. And then November, we're going to release 2 videos.
Oh,
not
my
just
goodness.
one, but 2.
Not just one.
So we're really excited. We're really excited. We're still editing the program. It was so big and so epic that it took our editors just 3.5, 4 weeks just to kind of get all the files organized on the computer. So that's going to happen. That's
Yeah.
going to happen after PY108. So just to know that the PY108 rotation is just the beginning.
So setting you up for this new program that's going to be starting, the rotation will be starting January 1st. You'll get a taste of it. You'll be able to see it sort of before then, but really wanting to set you up for success. And just to say, this is so true, what you said, you know, having the habit be the thing that keeps you going, because motivation isn't there every day. And this morning, I did not want to do my practice. The truth was,
She got up 5:20
I got up.
a.m.
I got up.
5:20
I did it anyway.
You did it anyway.
I did not want to. I had a lot of resistance, and I was so glad that I did.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that that's important to just speak to, like, what are your non-negotiables? If you're not carving time out of your day to give back to yourself, then you're not going to have that you can't give to other people what you don't have to give, right? So your practice, your time that you took this morning before you encountered the fury known as a 3.5-year-old Willa, you had to, like, give back to yourself and recenter and recharge yourself so that you could really be there and show up for her as a mom. And so your practice is it's your retreat, it's your sanctuary, it's your monastery that you get to go to every day and come back to those things that are important to you.
Yeah, exactly. And I think to discern the difference between, there are going to be times where you really need to sleep more, right? Like there are going to be times where you really need to take a day off, and discerning the difference. And I think that that is the discipline of fierce compassion, right? There are just days where the discipline is not uncompassionate, not incompassionate. It is the thing that is the most compassionate thing you can do for yourself. So, you know, that's for each individual to discern day to day. But, you know, advocating for, I know when I did my first 108-day program, when we did our first 108-day journey, it changed our lives. It changed our lives completely and entirely. And everyone who did that 108-day program with us, their lives were forever and completely changed. And so really excited for you guys who maybe have never done the full 108 days to really go off and give yourself this gift, because that is what it is. It is a transformational gift. And I hope that you give it to yourself. And when we see you in person, you know, you often say to us that, you know, you don't know me, but I feel like I know you. When you do these 108 days, we feel like we know you too. You know, we're not in your living room every day. Yet we're not seeing your face going through it, but we feel like we know you because we've been there. We've done it too. And so, yes, when you go on this journey, we're right there with you. And it is a family and it is a community. And just to know that even if you're in your room, your bedroom, your closet, your backyard, practicing alone, you are never practicing alone in a silo, and you have this whole community with you. So, you know, with all of that said, do you want to jump into some questions today?
Yeah, let's do
Yeah.
it.
So, you know, with so many of you here joining us live, it would be so amazing to hear from you. So if you have any questions or any stories that you want to tell, you know, you can raise your hand and Christy can call on you and turn on your microphone and your video. Also, if you don't want to come on video, you can pop it into the Q&A. So that's always an option too.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Lauren and Travis. Like, I see myself as a member still as well. And every time I'm with you guys, I just love hearing you guys like speak about yoga and how yoga has changed your life and all the programs and how you create it. So thank you. That was very special for me as well.
Thanks, Christy.
Let's see, any questions? So I see one question. I'll read it out loud. You are all inspiring. What advice do you have for keeping your relationship strong?
Well, anything that you want to keep strong, you have to feed it, right? You don't feed something and it becomes weaker. So it becomes a question of feeding things. So then the question is okay, how do you feed the relationship? And we do that by a lot of things, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think yesterday is a really good example. So, I had a very unfortunate family emergency this last week, and I had to hightail it out of town to be with family for 4 days, left Travis here with Willa. I haven't seen him in 4 days. And yesterday afternoon, the truth is we had a lot of work to do. There were a lot of things. We're getting ready to lead 2 retreats back to back, to be out of town for several weeks. And instead, in the middle of the day, we went and we sat together, and we took time for an hour to talk and to connect. And he was sharing things about work and giving me updates. And I was making sure that I was making eye contact with him and I was listening, even though there was a part of me that wanted to go pack and needed to get packing. And I kept coming back because yoga and meditation have taught me how to stay in my body. And I could be with the discomfort of the mind saying that there were other things to do, but I stayed because attention and listening are the most important and subtlest and profound acts of love. And I think that even though that's a small thing, it's one of the ways that we care for our relationship, is taking that time to really connect and see each other and listen. And that's something I think we take at least time to do once a day.
Yeah, and they did a study where they looked at people who had been married for 40 years or longer, so multiple decades, still in a marriage, and they went and asked all these couples, what would you say is the single most attributing factor to the success of your marriage? And the common thing that was extracted from that particular study was this idea of the word respect. The moment that you lose respect for your partner is the moment that the relationship is going to become unhealthy and toxic. So always having respect, showing respect is very key within your relationships. And also, by the way, it's also very important for the relationship to yourself, right? And one of the ways that we show respect to our body and to ourselves is by taking care of ourselves, by listening to ourselves, by being compassionate to ourselves, by being honest and truthful. Like, where are we not pushing ourselves enough? Where are we not learning and growing and testing our comfort zone? That's another form of respect. So respect, respect, respect.
Yeah, thank you. Let's see, a couple more questions. Let's see, Dawn, are the core pranayama meditation add-ons required for the challenge, or are they just nice options?
Great question. They are not required. They are considered to be bonus classes. So for those of you that want the extra credit is there for you to reap the rewards, but no, not part of the challenge. When you can, throw them in, and when you can't, when you're short on time, no worries. But try and do it at least 2 or 3 times, because they are like the gasoline on the fire. They will help the other dimensions, like we talk about here in interdimension. The breath work is great for the energetic dimension. Meditation, obviously very good for the mind, the heart, and awareness dimension. And then the core class is great for the physical dimension, but also the chakras are the most subtle form of energy systems in the body, so good for that as well.
Okay, awesome, great. Oh, Cody Melton. So Cody is actually going to be attending the Montana retreat. And shout out to Cody. He actually just finished his teacher training today.
Congratulations.
Congrats, Cody.
So Cody has a question. Do our classes during the Montana retreat count for the first 2 days of the challenge? Can't wait for the retreat and the challenge.
Yeah, I mean, not only do they count, but like, talk about extra credit, right? Because those classes we're doing 2.5 hours of yoga in the morning, 2.5 hours of yoga in the afternoon. So absolutely, they count as part of the challenge. And by the way, a retreat is an amazing way to really, really deepen your practice. And I would say, like, we're going to Boone, North Carolina this weekend. It's 3 nights, 4 days. I would say that that's the equivalent of like an average person doing 6 months of yoga at home. because when you do a retreat and you're in that immersive experience, something really, really deep happens. And the good thing about Montana is that it's even longer than 3 nights, 4 days. I think it's 6 nights, 7 days. So it's double the length. So that's going to be a powerful experience, and also a great way to come out of your teacher training and get to come into a setting where you can just practice. Because in teacher training, there's so much learning and so much head stuff and all that. Now you get to kind of just trust that all that's there. It's in your body, it's in your DNA, and you can just come and have the experience of yoga. So we look forward to sharing that with you, Cody.
And Cody, what an amazing culmination. And just as a side note, Christy's going to write your name down and we're going to make sure on the back end for our purposes that you're taken care of for those first 2 days. So we're going to make a note about that on our side. So don't worry about it. We got you.
Great. Let's see, a couple more questions. Sandy has a question. Can you double up on classes in a day, or do they have to be done on different days?
Yeah, I mean, it comes back to this idea of balance, right? And if you do an hour-long cardio class on a given day, when that class shows up, that's more than enough. Cardio is very intense. Strength class is an hour of yoga, that's more than enough. But if you're in a position where you're going to be going on a trip or whatnot, and maybe you want to do a power class and then the yin class is next in the rotation, and you want to add that in there, feel free to. But as much as possible, try and follow the program as it's laid out, because again, as we were saying earlier on in the conversation, the sequence of classes has been tested rigorously and really thought about and very intentional to give you the right highs and lows so that you can sustain it through 108 days. So what we want to avoid is doing too much too fast. Along those lines, because I see this pop up a lot, people ask, can they do other things? Can they run? Can they jog? Can they lift weights? Can they do CrossFit? Can they do their martial arts training? Like all that stuff. Or is PY 108 enough? And I always say it depends on the individual. It depends on your level of fitness, the foundation of fitness and health that you have. It depends on how much yoga you've done or haven't done. So what I recommend is for the first 36 days of the program, just do the yoga, see how that feels, because chances are your body will be pretty sore. And then if you feel like you want to add on, you can add on to that. And by the way, you don't have to add anything else in, because in the PY 108 program, you will have strength, balance, stamina, and flexibility, which are the 4 pillars of fitness. If you feel like you want to add something a little bit on top of that, go out and get your 10 to 12,000 steps in a day. Walking is an underrated form of activity and fitness. It burns calories, it burns fat. It's good for bringing our glycemic levels down if we've eaten too much sugar, but it's not taxing on the body. So it doesn't jack up your hunger, or in Ayurveda, what we call the Agni, the digestive fire. Things remain steady. So if you're interested in shedding initiating some fat loss or whatever it is, just being cardiovascular or healthy, add in the walking on top of that and put on a good podcast or an audio book, and that can be amazing.
Thank you. Oh, and just to clarify, everyone, the Power Yoga 108 program is actually already on Interdimension TV. I see a couple people who have questions on when is it going to be on Interdimension. It's actually already on there. So it's on there already.
On demand.
On demand, yes. I think we have time for one more question. Audrey, do the classes, it looks like she's going to our Mexico retreat as well. Do the classes in Mexico retreat count as well? And
I think we're gonna have to do some work on the back end here, but Audrey, Christy's gonna
put a note down. Yeah,
Christy's gonna take your name down. So for anybody who's joining our retreats, You'll reach out to Christy and we will find a way to make sure that those classes count for you on those days. So just so people know, the way that this works is we can actually see what classes you do and what classes you don't do. So on the back end, you know, from our perspective, we can see if you're doing these classes or not. And that's kind of how the technology takes care of accountability. So for those of you that aren't able to practice through Interdimension TV, because you're going to be on retreat with us, Christy and our team will help account for the classes that you're missing on your computer because you're with us physically in person. Let's see. I see Claudia. I see the word scary, so I want to read your message. I'm scared that I can't sustain the practice for such a long time. What do I do if I find the practice is too much for me?
Yeah, so it comes back to honoring your body. And if you need to take breaks, take breaks. You may come to child's pose 20 times in a yoga class, and that's okay. Now, we haven't talked about this, but it's not 108 different yoga classes. It's about 11 classes that repeat in various ways over and over and over again. And this is one, repetition done with awareness is what leads to mastery. If I want to go learn the piano, I have to repeat the same scales over and over again. If I want to go and learn anything and become a master of it, I can't keep doing a bunch of random things. I have to come back and repeat. So repetition is powerful. And you may notice that when you come back and you do, say, the cross-train class for the second time, maybe instead of taking child's pose 20 times, you take it 15 times. And then the third time you go back and do it, you only take child's pose 12 times. And it's not always linear. You may go up and down and up and down. So just know that that's not uncommon or unusual as well. And it's really about having the right mindset. You can either have the mindset that's called the fixed mindset or the mindset that has the growth mindset. And what I want to invite you to have is the growth mindset that says, I want to be challenged. I'm okay with being challenged because I associate challenges with growth. So anytime you're being challenged, it's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. It's an opportunity for you to grow, and you have your hand on the lever. If you want to intensify the challenge, you can. If you want to pull back on the challenge, you can. You're always the one who's in control. And ultimately, the real teacher is the teacher that exists inside of you. And my job, Lauren's job, any yoga instructor's job is to remind you over and over again to pay attention to that inner teacher.
And Claudia, just to say, do you know how I know a yoga teacher is in the room practicing with me? Because they're the first ones to take child's pose. So just to say, there's so much wisdom in your body and in listening to your body. In order to get ready for the PY 108 challenge, I have a series on Interdimension TV called Vinyasa Lists. You can go do a couple of those practices. I take out all of the vinyasas from the practice, and that's something that you could integrate into PY 108. The vinyasas are always optional. This is something that we hear people say all of the time when they're doing 108 days of yoga in a row. They're often experiencing tenderness with their wrists or tenderness with their shoulders. If you're noticing that in your body, there's a difference between being on the verge of injury and strengthening muscles. And you know this. I promise that you know this in your body if you're listening really closely. Do not be afraid to skip the vinyasas. Do not be afraid to take child's pose. Those things are there to support you in having, again, a sustainable practice for a lifetime. I know for me, when I went back to doing yoga again after a year-long break, this was the year before I started doing my teacher training, I did all of my vinyasas on my knees for a year so that I built appropriate alignment and strength. So take your time and just know that, again, like Travis said, it's not about keeping up with the video. It's not about keeping up with the students who are in the class. You have a lifetime to build there. So just keep listening and caring for yourself along the way.
Yeah, and also keep in mind when you see the students in the classes, these students have been doing yoga a long time. They've done these classes many, many, many times. So they're at a certain level where they look a certain way and their practice looks a certain way. And that's because they are living proof of what happens when you have a long, consistent yoga practice. So if you're kind of just getting started or beginning, it would be insane to compare yourself, and still insane to compare yourself at any point to somebody else in the video.
Great. Um, okay, there was one more question. Are there any nutritional recommendations for the program?
Great question. I'm glad you
Mhm.
brought that up. By the way, when you go into Interdimension TV, before you start the program, there is an introduction video where I break down everything you need to know about getting started. So you definitely want to watch that before starting the program. There's also a digital booklet that also you can read all this information. So yes, you know, I often joke because people are totally fine when they come to me for advice, and they will let me give them advice on what to do with their body, what to do with their breath, what to do with their mind, what to do with their life. But when it comes to food, they get angry and they don't want to hear it. And of course, this isn't everybody, but people get really triggered when it comes to food. So what I've learned to offer in the framework of food is a very generalized approach, because the reality is, and we see this even in Ayurvedic medicine, everybody is different and everybody has different needs. So you can go through this program and you could be vegetarian or vegan or paleo or keto or whatever you want to be. But what I recommend, and I think what we 99.99% of us can agree upon, is that we should remove processed foods. It's something that we don't want to be putting into our body. So as you move through the 108 days, eat clean, remove processed foods, try and eat whole foods, lots of fruits, lots of vegetables, lots of good quality protein. Give yourself lots of great nourishment, because that nourishment, your diet and how you eat, is just as important as the actual physical exercise, if not even more so. So think about before starting this program, and you have what, 2.5 weeks or so here. What is the thing that you maybe want to remove from your diet that's not healthy for you? That could be sodas, could be alcohol, could be excess caffeine. I don't know. You have to choose what the thing is for you. And throughout that process of 108 days, try and eat clean. Now, look, we're going to be moving through Halloween. We're going to be moving through Thanksgiving. We're going to be moving through the holidays and all that. So maybe on those days, this is a good example where you find balance, like do everything in moderation, even moderation. So maybe on Thanksgiving, like you indulge and you go to town with your pumpkin pie. I probably will. But on the other days, you're doing your best to eat clean.
Thank you for that. It looks like that's it for comments and questions.
Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for joining us today, whether you're live or watching the recording. Thank you for your presence and your contribution to the community, for the questions that you asked, and for your dedication to these next 108 days. I really look forward to hearing about your journey in the private Facebook group if you use that. Look forward to at least jumping on to practice with you, hopefully on Thanksgiving, and maybe seeing some of you live or in person on December 30th for this culmination. It really is the honor of our lives to be able to go on these journeys with you and share these practices with you.
Yes, thank you guys so much for being a part of the Interdimension TV community. It really means the world to us, which is why we want to do these conversations and do these special events and keep the bond nice and strong. And thank you for all of you that are going to be moving through the PY 108 rotation. I look forward to hearing how it goes for you. And also at the end of it, come January 1, then setting us up for that exciting new program as well.
Yeah, and we don't have our next community conversation scheduled yet because we're hoping to do it from Bali with Paul, Chris, and Byron. So we're hoping that we'll be able to sit down with the guys in Bali coming this October. So we'll keep you notified. That'll probably end up landing somewhere in late October, early November, but that will be a really fun and different community conversation from a very different location than the inside of our home. So we look forward to sharing that with you. Christy, as always, thank you for your contribution to the community and being the pillar that supports the community and for always being there for everybody. So with that said, wishing everybody a wonderful week and an amazing start to the challenge. And we'll see you on September 14th as we kick it off and get started. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
and I'll
you.
be sending the recording of this conversation to everyone as well.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys, we'll see you online.
See you online.
Bye.